What is going on, guys? This is LSU Recruiting HQ. I'm your host, Michael. Today is February 12th, 2024. And, guys, February is my favorite month because that only means one thing for LSU fans and one thing only. That means LSU Baseball is back in session. The boys are ready to defend their national championship from last year. And if you guys are like me, man, baseball is my sport. Like, that is what I am attached to the most. Like, I love football, I love basketball, I love watching all LSU stuff. But man, when it comes to baseball season, I'm there, I'm locked in year round. I'm figuring out what's going to happen. And today we're going to be breaking it down, preparing you for opening day on Friday. LSU, obviously, like I mentioned, 54 wins last year, a national championship. Um, some of the greatest moments in LSU baseball history happened last year, and and this team is going to be completely different. But one thing I'm going to tell you right now is this team does not lack the ability to do what last year's team did. They're just going to do it a different way, and we're going to break it all down today. Last year's team, 54 wins, capped it off with the national championship in Omaha, coming out of the losers bracket. Everybody knows the story by now. What does that mean for this year's team? Absolutely nothing, man. And that is what baseball, it is such a beautiful game. All sports really are like this, right? Where just because there's some same faces doesn't mean it's a completely new year, man. It can go either way, right? LSU can be just as good as they were last year, or we could have rock bottom. We could hit a wall and maybe injuries happen. Man, baseball is just a funny game, and it is all about the breaks you get and when you get them, and how you overcome those breaks. But I got a feeling that Jay Johnson has built this program the way he wants it to overcome these things, just like he did last year with guys like Chase Shores, Garrett Edwards, guys like that going down middle of the season, able to overcome that, able to overcome certain struggles that they had throughout the season. The bullpen being the most glaring one. I was one of those who thought going into postseason that was what was gonna derail LSU's hopes, was the bullpen and certain things along with that. But they were able to figure it out, man, and it don't get no easier this year. The SEC baseball slate is absolutely loaded again. We're going to be breaking down the schedule, who's the favorites. You got all SEC teams coming out. You got the All-American teams coming out, and the SEC is full of talent, just like it always is. And their LSU schedule gives them no favors. But I got a feeling that's going to be kind of what, this team is to start the year, right? We're going to talk about some new faces. We're going to talk about some old faces. We're going to talk about everything LSU baseball, man. As you could tell, man, I'm super excited. I know you guys are super excited. We're going to be breaking it all down, man. If you guys have been paying attention to any of the scrimmages or anything like that, man, LSU baseball data does tweets out like the home runs, the kind of like the stats from the game. So shout out to whoever runs that account, man, keeping the people that aren't going to these games up to date, because sometimes scrimmages are hard to get to, and it's always good to stay in the loop. Speaking of staying in the loop, let's talk about what the approach for this year's team is, right? And for me, it starts and ends with pitching, right? Last year, you can argue LSU had the best pitcher in the history of this program on its roster last year. Not saying he was, not saying he is, but you can make that argument. What Paul Skeens did last year was nothing short of tremendous. You knew every single Friday night he was getting the ball that you were going to come home with a victory. And LSU, as of right now, I don't think they got a guy like Paul Skeens. I think they got a couple guys like Paul that could end up being like Paul Skeens. That's how good I think this pitching staff could be this year. And it's going to be out of nowhere because there might be some names in there that you aren't familiar with or you haven't heard yet. But that's why you're here watching us, right? Because we're going to break it all down, man. Like I said, we're going to spend a lot of time on this. So, like, lock it in. If you got something on the stove right now, turn it off. Something in the microwave, grab your popcorn because we're here to break it down. So, last year's starting rotation, we'll start with the starting rotation like in Omaha, right? You were rocking with Paul Skeens, Ty Floyd, Thatcher Hurd. Really, most of that those were your three guys, right? Down the stretch, those were the guys you were relying on to eat up innings and get you outs. Thatcher Hurd is the only one from that group returning. Does that mean he's going to be the Friday night starter? That is to be determined. I think he will start this Friday night, but we're also going to talk about some other names that I think will move into that Friday night role and some of the stuff that Coach Johnson said about this pitching staff that should give you optimism as far as, the hope for this pitching staff because you do return a lot of pitchers. I want to tell you guys this. Like, you guys remember the Paul Mainieri days, like where LSU had 0 left-handed pitching? Well, let me tell you something. LSU has 10 left-handed pitchers. Yes, you heard me correct. That is 1-0. 10 double-digit left-handed pitchers for this season. And we're going to talk about all of them because Jay Johnson likes to bring it up in a lot of his press conferences about talks he's had with a guy named Augie Garrido over there at Texas who said you can't win a national championship without having good left-handed pitching. And boy, has he made sure that that's not going to be a problem because the left-handed pitchers coming out of this rotation is unreal. I'm having to look at the roster because I don't even I couldn't remember all their names. So I'm going to do my best. We're just going to talk about a few of them. Some guys that helped out last year. Some guys you probably ain't even heard of yet, right? You got guys like Javen Coleman coming back. You got guys like DJ Primo who are coming back off of injury. You have Griffin Herron who was tremendous for you down the stretch. You also have where'd he go? See, this is what I'm talking about. Nate Ackenhausen, who was one of your best relievers last year. You have a guy and a freshman named Cade Anderson, who you're going to remember his name very well by the end of this season. And then also the UCLA transfer, Gage Jump, who is a full-on starter and is a guy I think could crack this top 3 rotation even by this first weekend. So, what does this mean, right? The pitching staff as a whole, right, is constructed a certain way. LSU is super deep in this department. I honestly believe that this year LSU has about 10 to 12 pitchers that can get you outs. Last year, I don't think they were at that number. Last year, they were really top heavy. They relied a lot on the guys, kind of like the 2022 season when you were kind of relying on, 3 or 4 guys, man, to get you outs. Well, some of those guys left. Some of those guys are back. That being said, man, you've added so many guys out of the portal and you've brought in another tremendous recruiting class. Like, this pitching staff from top to bottom, I believe, is the best we've seen at LSU in a long time. And that is going to be the key to success because I do feel like this year's offense, they're going to go through some growing pains with just some new guys cracking the lineup, getting full-time at-bats. They're going to probably go through some struggles once they hit conference play. But I don't want you guys to get in panic mode. Shoot, I don't even want to get into panic mode because I'm the worst one at it. I'm like doomsday, DEFCON 4, 1, whatever number it is. I'm that guy, right? I see one bad game. I'm better at it than I was, but I'm still bad at it. I see one game, and I'm like, this team sucks. That's me. I'm sorry. It's a curse. It really is. I can't help it. It's never going to change, unfortunately. But this pitching staff is going to calm your nerves. I promise you that. Because this pitching staff, 1 through 10 to 12, is elite. All right, you got guys coming out there throwing triple digits, right? Guys that you ain't even heard of, all right? We ain't even talked about a guy like Aiden Moffitt, right? A guy you brought in from Xavier, Justin Lohr. Luke Holman. Yeah, that Luke Holman. Yeah, preseason All American Luke Holman, who could possibly be your Friday night starter this week. Yeah, that Luke Holman. Um, just absolutely loaded, man. This pitching staff is gonna carry this team. Mark my words, this offense is gonna struggle at times, right? Jay Johnson's gonna get them right, and I think they're gonna click at the right time. But I got a feeling that during the season, at some point, this pitching staff is gonna have to bail out this offense at times because it's gonna be a struggle. Like these guys are gonna be facing top tier pitching for the first time on a consistent basis, and honestly, the biggest thing that LSU has to is advantage is the way they practice. Right? Last year, you talk about it. Paul Skeens going to go up against Tommy White, against Dylan Cruz, guys that are All Americans, top 5 picks in the NMLB draft, going against each other every single day in practice. You heard it about Alabama football. You heard it about Georgia, best on best. Every single day, the people that I'm facing in practice are better than the people we're facing in the game anyway. And you go in with that mentality, I think that's going to help a lot of these young kids because they're not going to be as starstruck as they would be on some other programs because the people you're facing in practice are just as good, if not better, than the ones you're going to be facing in the games. And look for LSU to use some of their veteran guys like Hayden Travinsky. You got a guy like Matt Bingham from Arizona who transferred in, who could be that guy who catalysts this offense. I expect him to be sitting right in that leadoff spot on opening day. You got a guy like Josh Pearson coming back, a steady bat, a guy who can calm an offense down and give you a quality at bat when you need it. You got a guy like Brady Neal who could be returning back to this lineup after missing a majority of the season last year with a back injury. Jared Jones, All-American freshman, first baseman this year slash catcher. Gonna see him. He's already been named starting first baseman, so that's a guy you're gonna see. You're gonna see guys like Paxton Kling in there, and like I said, this offense as a whole, it's not going to be Dylan Cruz, Tommy White, you know, Braden Joe Bear, guys hitting double-digit home runs all season long, right? It's going to be built different, man. And let me get this into y'all's heads now because I'm probably going to be the worst culprit, but I'm trying to talk myself into it, right? Don't take what happened last year for granted. Don't take the greatness that you saw last year for granted, all right? But also don't put the pressure that comes with what happened last year on kids trying to figure this out as they go, right? This is their first year. Some of them their first year starting. Some of this year maybe they got some at bats last year and they're just kind of breaking the ice on getting into the lineup full time. Don't get discouraged when people struggle, right? Because this lineup's not going to be 1 through 9. Everybody's clicking like we're scoring 15 runs a game. Like they're going to have to piece together hits. They're going to have to get timely hits. It's going to be a differently constructed team. You don't have you still have the firepower, but you don't have the star power. You don't have that Dylan Cruz who's going to go 2 for 4, right? You got Tommy White coming back. And people are going to pitch around him at the beginning of the season because they're going to try to figure out who in this lineup they can approach and who they can work around to get outs, right? Last year, you couldn't do that with LSU's lineup. They were 1 through 9. They were deep. You weren't going into a series against LSU saying, like, okay, this is a guy that we're going to go after because we feel like this is a good matchup for us. There wasn't a good matchup. And this year, you might have guys go through slumps. You might have guys breaking into the lineup that aren't in the lineup day one. Matter of fact, I guarantee you that that's what's going to happen. You have a lot of new guys, man, and I'm telling you guys, be patient with this team. I think they're going to open the season. They're going to build off of the momentum that they had last year and the momentum they had this fall. They're going to jump on some of these non-conference teams, and those expectations are going to be sky high, guys. And I'm telling you, once the conference play starts, it's going to be a reality check for these guys. But I want you guys to be patient because I promise you this team can do everything that last year's team did. It's just going to look different, all right? Mark my words, it's just going to look different, all right? So One of the names I want you guys to keep an eye out for as of right now, right? And this is kind of my wild card, right? I think this guy's going to be in the lineup day one. All right. I don't. I got a feeling he's going to take one of these corner outfield spots by the horn, and I don't think they're going to be able to get him out of it. And that is freshman Jake Brown out of Sulphur, a two-way player, a lefty pitcher, guy who could have got drafted. A kid from Louisiana, wanted to come to LSU, and I'm telling you guys, the way he's hitting the ball in the fall, I don't think Jay Johnson's going to keep him out of this lineup long, if not at all, because this kid can play. This kid's going to be a stud pitcher if he pitches, and he's going to be an amazing hitter if he just hits. He's that kind of good. The future for him is uncertain for which one he's going to approach, or maybe Coach Johnson lets him do both. But as of right now, I see him as your third outfielder. And we're going to kind of go by position by position, starting with your catcher, right? Obviously, everybody knows Hayden Travinski is going to be behind the plate majority of your games. You also have Alex Milazzo in there. I think you're going to see Milazzo in there a lot defensively. I think you're going to see Brady Neal in there defensively, and I think you're going to see Hayden Travinski in there kind of part-time, DH, mixing things up, right? All three of them are going to catch. I don't think Jared Jones is going to catch this year. I think those three are going to split all three times. But Hayden Travinski is going to be your opening day catcher / DH, whatever that entails, right? And moving on to first base, obviously we've already talked about him, Jared Jones. All freshman SEC last year, hit over 300 as a true freshman. Only look to build off of that. If he can get his pitch selection where Coach Johnson wants it, the ceiling is the roof, guys. The ceiling is the roof for this kid. This kid has unreal power. Could hit it through the scoreboard. That's the kind of power we're talking about. And if he puts it all together, watch out, because that is a dangerous man. All right? Going to second base, a lot of you guys that haven't been paying attention, this might be new to you, but Josh Pearson is going to be your starting second baseman on opening day. A guy who played outfield, left, and right field last year. Moving into the infield, Coach Johnson has talked about it at numbers. The transition has been super smooth with him and Michael Braswell at shortstop as far as their communication and how things are going with them two. And Josh Pearson, man, he worked hard. He earned it. He earned the trust of the coaches who have known this. Listen, Jay Johnson is known to sacrifice a little bit of defense to have the offense that he wants, and you have to have a left-handed bat like Josh Pearson in this lineup. Moving on to shortstop, we just talked about him. You got the South Carolina transfer, a guy who actually really struggled last year. Got his position taken, wasn't even playing shortstop for South Carolina last year. Everybody's kind of heard the story about how this thing went down. He was almost shocked that LSU wanted him, right? But it's been a match made in heaven for both parties, because Michael Braswell is an elite defensive shortstop, and with Coach Johnson getting in there, working with his hitting, he has been one of LSU's best hitters this entire fall and entire spring practice leading up to the season. He will be your opening day shortstop, and he will not move from shortstop the entire year. The bat is continued to get better. The shortstop position, when you're playing defense like Michael Braswell is going to play defense, it is not imperative that you go out there and hit 350 with 15 home runs, guys. So you look for somebody who replaced Jordan Thompson defensively and offensively. Michael Braswell is your guy. And then obviously you got the All-American Tommy Tanks at third base. Really not much to talk about here. One of the best players in the country, going to be a top 10 overall pick in the MLB draft this fall. Just a pure hitter, man. A 20-plus home run guy. Going to bat close to 350 or higher. He's just a tremendous talent. And that steady presence in that lineup that teams have got to respect, man. And I'm telling you, early in the season, they're going to pitch around him. And it's going to lead to other opportunities for other guys to step up. And that's exactly what you're going to hope for, is those guys can learn. And then eventually you can't pitch around everybody, right? So, that being said, right field, right field. Actually, we're gonna say right field for last. Well, let's move on to left field. We got a newcomer here, right? A lot of you guys heard me talk about him earlier. Matt Bingham, a guy from Arizona. Jay Johnson's full on swing, bringing this guy back. Man, he was a tremendous talent at Arizona. Hit over 350 last year, all Pac-12. Just, I mean, like, what more can I say about this kid that, y'all are going to see, right? This is going to be one of those where you might not know now, but you're going to find out really quick how good this kid is. Hit 360 at Arizona last year, 10 home runs, not a tremendous power threat, but with Jay Johnson working with him again, I look to see those power numbers increase. This also could be your center fielder, but I think Paxton Kling is going to be your center fielder. So that being said, let's move on to him. His first time getting real action, right? Living in that shadow of Dylan Cruz, this was going to be the next guy, right? The guy that everybody talked about out of high school. Like, how did this kid end up on campus? He's a draft eligible sophomore. He could very easily have a career season this year and go straight to the MLB draft. Like, this kid could be a 5-tool player if he figures out the bat, because the glove is there, the speed is there, everything else is there, but the bat has to pick it up this year if you want to be a full-time outfielder in this lineup, because Jay Johnson's not going to put up with poor at-bats like he did last year. And I look for Paxton Kling to have a great year this year. And then, so now, talking about right field, I'm going to bring him up again. Jake Brown is my guy for the right field position right now. I just feel that he's the best hitter right now. He's your guy off the bench that you would use. And I just feel like he's going to be that guy opening day where he's going to be playing right field. I could be completely wrong here, but it's just, I don't know, man. It's tough for me to say. He's also mentioned Brady Neal being able to play an outfield spot, so you might see some of the outfielders flip-flop a little bit, and you stick Brady Neal out there. But this Jake Brown kid, man, he's the real deal. The entire fall, the entire spring, he's done nothing but hit. He's dominated pitching, and he's just a talented kid. And I look to see him in this lineup in the entire year, because he's going to be a great one at LSU, I feel like. And there's not much else to say other than just wait and see, man. We're all just kind of playing the guessing game. You're gonna find out eventually. So now breaking down the schedule. I don't know if you guys have looked at the schedule yet, but a lot of 2 p.m. start times this year. A little bit different for Coach Johnson. I kind of like it. It gives you a little bit of flexibility on the weekends to move games around in case it's weather. I also like that they're doing the 4-game series thing where they kind of mix it up play it almost as a regional feel to it. Open up the season with VMI and Central Arkansas, 2 games apiece, Friday through Monday. All games are at 2 p.m. Saturday and Sunday are at 1 p.m. The game on Monday is on 2 p.m. Like I said, there's no night games until conference play starts, so at home. So that's something to kind of keep your eye out on if you're looking to plan for this year, what the schedule's looking like. That's kind of the new wrinkle there. So what do I think about this team, right? This 2024 LSU team, what do I think their goals are, and what do I think they can accomplish? Well, I mean, we talked about it, man. They can accomplish anything they want. This isn't a team where I look at and I say their ceiling is this, because I really don't know. I think this pitching staff could carry them all the way to a national championship again, and you could be talking about back-to-back championships, just like you were in the 90s. I think the lineup is going to come. And I just feel like, man, I feel like this is going to be a team with a lot of ebbs and flows to it. A lot of guys who go through some struggles. Maybe you see some changes in the lineup. But guys, sticking it out, and it could be a situation where LSU gets bumped out in a super regional. I don't think they'd go any lower than that. The expectation is Omaha or nothing, though. No matter what, Jay Johnson set the standard, and it's not coming down anytime soon. The way he's built this program to win and win now and win big is evident in every crescent of this program because he's constructed rosters his entire career at Arizona, but he's never had the availability and the talent level that he has had now. And the fact that he worked so hard in the offseason off of a championship to get this roster to what it is now, there's not a lot of holes. There's a lot of, if this guy struggles, we have a plan. And that's what I think is going to make this team just as good as last year's team. And I mean, like I said, man, the sky's the limit for this team. I expect to see him in Omaha, and I expect them to see him competing for the 8th national championship in program history, and nothing short of that is acceptable for this LSU baseball program and where it's at right now. Barring a ton of injuries, this team is loaded from top to bottom. The lineup, I think they're going to get it together eventually. I think they're going to come out hot. I think they're gonna let guys know that what Coach Johnson said in the press conference isn't a bunch of mumbo jumbo. Like, they're not defending a national championship. They're on the attack for 2024, and they're coming in with that mentality, and I think it's going to show. I think this LSU baseball team is going to be really good, and I'm super excited to watch. That's all I got for you guys today, man. I know it was long-winded. If you're still with us today or right here at the 25, 26-minute mark, man, appreciate you guys. Have a great rest of your week, and I'm super excited. LSU takes on VMI at 2 p.m. Central Time on Friday to kick off the 2024 baseball season. I'll be there. I can't wait to see you guys at the ballpark and get LSU baseball back on TV again.